The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question for the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is back in session. It is September 20th, 2025, and as you guys know by now, I didn't make a video on the 17th of September because there was virtually nothing going on. Yeah. But as of recent, some stuff has been happening, so let's cover. First of all, we are going to talk about the Zaporozhye direction. The Russians are continuing to advance into the town of Stepnogorsk and have also begun fighting for the town of Primorske, which is right here. Russians have been spotted in the very southern part of the town here, and they hope that by seizing control of these private residential areas, that they'll be able to flank the entirety of the town of Stepnogorsk and eventually be able to cross through these fields here, which would in turn allow them to flank the town of Orikov. But for now, though, things remain tense, and fighting is still underway for Stepnogorsk and Primorske. Now moving to the east, let's talk about the Guleapol direction / the Dnipropetrovsk direction. So the Russians recently have captured the village of Novo Ivanivka and have also captured the villages of Novomikhailivka and Berezove. Now, Berezove was apparently captured by the Russians during the 2022 phase of the invasion of Ukraine, but they were forced to fold back after Ukrainian reinforcements came to stop them. But the Vostok Group, which has come a long way since Ugledar last fall in 2024, has basically taken the entirety of Berezove. Vostok's official telegram has even noted that they're about to take the entirety of the village, but Suryak and Anatoly Radov have already colored Berezove in Russian hands because, I mean, what's the point? Ukrainians are likely not there anymore. And I also don't think Ukrainians are going to put up much of a fight for Stepove too, alongside Kalinivsky. They are going to fall to the Russians quite easily. And if you ask me, guys, I honestly don't think the Ukrainians are going to put up a defense until the Russians reach the village of Bishnivi. I don't think they're going to put up a fight until they get here. But yeah, as they get closer to this road here, which connects the towns of Pokrovsky and Guleapol, I do think they're going to face stiffer resistance from the armed forces of Ukraine. But until then, we can expect the Russians to continue their advance quite easily within the southern edge of the Dnipropetrovsk region. But here, within the Zaporozhye area, I do think Russians are going to face some resistance in the village of Uspenivka and its adjacent settlements here. Now, moving to the other part of the Dnipropetrovsk direction, the Russians went on a counterattack and have recaptured the villages of Zeleny Gai and Iskra, aka Andriivka Kalavstove, and have crossed the Vovcha River. Right now, the fighting is underway for the sizable settlement of Ivanovka. If the Russians are able to capture this village, Novopavlovka will be wide open for the Russians. And speaking of which, the Russian Ministry of Defense provided geolocations from this area here, and it has been recently revealed that the village of Muravka has fallen to the Russian army. So, this basically means everything here along the border with Dnipropetrovsk region is under Russian control, and we can expect a large-scale assault on the village of Novopavlivka very, very soon. It's only a matter of time before they're able to start fighting for this pretty medium-sized settlement here, which would, of course, get them closer to the first big town in the Dnipropetrovsk region, or Dnipropetrovsk region, and that's Mizova. In the city of Pokrovsk, aka Krasnaya Amisk, the Russians are still contesting for the southern parts of the city, but recently, geolocations have recently came out in which the Russians have taken control over a good chunk of western Pokrovsk. Now, Russians are trying to seize not only these railroads here, but they're also trying to cut off this road physically. If they're able to do this, then the Ukrainians that are here are basically trapped. They're in a cauldron. Like, they won't be able to get out. And even this road here on the other side of the railroad will also be effectively cut off too. I mean, if they cross this railroad here and are able to capture this industrial zone, yeah, Ukrainians are pretty much encircled in the city of Pokrovsk. Like, they will have almost no way out, and they're going to try to evacuate as many people as possible before an even bigger disaster strikes. And also, in addition, Russians are still fighting for the outskirts of Mayanograd, but that's all we know for now. And in the Dobropila direction, the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back, and they have re-seized full control over the village of Vlodomirivka. And some people are beginning to wonder if the Russians are going to withdraw from this area, or the Ukrainians are going to inflict a pretty heavy defeat upon the Russians in this area here. Radov has already colored Kutrivyar under AFU control, along with, I guess, a number of these areas here, but I think Ukrainians shouldn't be dancing yet, but it wouldn't surprise me, of course, in the future if they are dealt a defeat. But even if so, like, I don't know if it's going to matter, because the Russians, if they're able to capture Mayanograd and Pokrovsk, then it won't really matter. The Russians are just going to come back to this direction and finish what they started. Nothing much going on in the Konstantinovka direction other than clashes are ongoing for the outskirts of Konstantinovka and also for the outskirts of Chazov Yar. But in the direction of Siversk, we got a lot of news here. Also, I don't know what happened here. I guess Syriac must have did a coloring error, but apparently Russians are fighting for the outskirts of the town of Siversk and have completely captured the Serebryansky forest, which is located mostly in the Lugansk region. The Russians once had full control over this forest during the initial phase of the conflict in spring and summer 2022. But in September, as every one of you remembers, the Russians lost control over a good chunk of it due to the Ukrainians' successful Kharkiv counteroffensive. But now the Russians have pushed the AFU out of here and are closing in on the town of LYMAN, and are also right now fighting for the strategic village of Yampol. If they're able to capture this, then LYMAN and Siversk could be in danger of falling to the Russians later this year. There's also a report that the Russians have seized majority control over the village of Shandry Holove. As you can see, there's no way out for the Ukrainians at this point, so it's basically either encircled or Ukrainians are just withdrawing from the area now, so it's probably going to come under Russian control completely soon. And also, there's a report that the Russians are still advancing and are progressing quite well in the village of Zarachny. Ukrainians are still fighting for this area here, which borders not just the Donetsk region, but also the Lugansk region. But nothing much going on there. And then going north, we got the situation in the Kupiansk direction. The Russians have continued their advance west of Stepova Novoselivka. Deep State has even admitted a lot of these areas are now under Russian control, though not everything. And most importantly, in the city of Kupiansk, the Russians have continued their advance on the, I guess, in the northern part of the city, and have seized control over a good amount of commie blocks here, and are on the brink of closing in on consolidating their control over this part of Kupiansk. And there's even reports right now, according to Anatoly Radov, that the big micro-district within Kupiansk is being contested. So if this is taken, then there's not much the AFU and the Azov brigades can really do in regards to Kupiansk, because by seizing these positions here, the Russians will have basically the upper hand, like decisive initiative. And also, there is a rumor that the Russians have broken through into southern Kupiansk and have supposedly reached this microdistrict here, reaching this school. But we don't have 100% confirmation of these reports just yet. It could be DRGs, or it could be an actual advance that could, of course, decide the Battle of Kupiansk as we know it. And lastly, in the town of Volchansk... Oh, actually, no, I forgot. The Russians have apparently also started a new push in the northeastern portion of the Kharkiv region and have taken full control over the village of Adradane and are pushing towards the area where the Russians are gathered north of Kupiansk. I guess they want to connect this area here so that they would be able to basically combine their forces for a greater push on the village of Veliki Burlik, but also try to connect with the guys in Volchansk as of right now. And speaking of Volchansk, and this will be the last part of the video, the Russians have taken a good amount of forest outside of the town itself and have seized complete control over this industrial zone here, which effectively gives the Russians the initiative over the armed forces of Ukraine in Volchansk. And that's going to be it for today's update, everybody. I hope all of you enjoyed it, found it informative, and yeah. So tell me in the comment section below what you think of the recent updates in Ukraine, and I'll see you guys all next time. So take care, and peace out. Bye-bye.